it really just starts with the editors, the managers, the publishers, even the people using the systems, not just your content platform or CMS, but all of your systems, those people that have the use cases. And then you have to drill into what are their primary use cases? What are they trying to do day in, day out? Think about their future use cases. How make this change? Are we bringing in different people over time? Are we expanding the business in a couple of years? Do we want to expand the business? What type of business is this? You got to look at those future cases. You have to set up your content architecture. So actually start to configure your model, set up your workflows, your different things like that, and then populate and test. And after that, reiterate as many times as you need to until you deploy. And this works the same way if you're making little changes over time. So, you make a little enhancement here, look at all these things for that little enhancement, and roll out those changes type of idea. So just drilling into each one of these, who are the editors and managers? So do they perform a single task or a variety of tasks? So if that person's focused in one little area, they're really going to want that optimized, or do they have to jump all over the place and do a whole bunch of things? It changes how you change their content flows, their workflows, things like that. If you have one person managing everything, they can't spend a lot of time doing different components. Next, how technical are they? Do you need the interface to explain the more technical fields? Do you need to have rich text? Do you need to have development code snippets? Is it very, very high level? It really depends on your users and that type of content and that specific use case, which we'll get into next. Are they new to the platforms? So do they already know the platform? This one's an interesting one because, for example, if I bring an intern in and that intern changes every 6 months and they're going to be brand new to the platform, you don't know how technical they are, and maybe they just do a few different tasks, I would assume that those tasks should be super dumbed down, very simple to learn, very quick to learn, and even the training, they don't have to learn the whole system. They have to just learn that one use case and how to do it. And then this is related to the interns. Do they change often? Do you have a lot of churn, or are you changing resources out, or is this distributed across your entire company where you want to start bringing in new teams over time? So this tells you a lot about how to build your content models in the interface. And then the next step is drilling into the primary use cases. So build a list of the actual steps and things users do now before they're going to your new system or optimized systems. List each step and really understand how much time does this take, and think in your head, if I doubled this amount of work, if they had to, then if the business comes back and said, instead of a blog post a day, you have to do 2 blog posts a day or 3 blog posts a day. Think about how those economies of scale can change things. That's when you really start to see the weak points within your usability, where it's like, well, they can do 1 a day, but if you ask them to do 3, like the systems will slow down, not the writing of the content. What tasks are done most often? If this one task is done once a month, maybe you don't have to focus so much on it. You can keep that a little less efficient, but if they do it every single day, it has to be efficient. And not just for the optimization of time, but for the sanity of that user. We're talking about retention. If they're doing it every day and they're annoyed every day, that's a lot worse than if they're annoyed once a month to have to do something. And what steps to complete those tasks, right? So to get all the way through, what are the steps that have to be done to make sure? And that may be going from one system to another system and jumping around, and then they have to get some approvals for workflows and other things like that. And that's kind of the business stuff that Joel was talking about, where the publisher might want to publish it, but no, there's other things that have to happen in other tasks. So that's very important, because maybe that can be built into your workflow, or maybe you can try to get that out of your steps so that there's no dependence there. How long do they take, and can it be reduced? So after you have them all, and how long it currently takes, okay, how long is the new architecture going to take, and can we reduce this? Can we really optimize this? And dig deep into high priority, time consuming use cases that are used often. You just got to focus on those ones. Those are your biggest bang for your buck. And using a system like a content platform, there could be hundreds on hundreds of use cases. So you got to focus on the high priority ones.
Yeah, phase 1 versus phase 2. Certainly, like, hey, what do we need to do now versus like, what can we push off until something else? Yeah.
And one mistake I see all the time is people roll out some solution and they think they're done, and they don't come back in like 3 months and ask their editorial team or managers, how is it working? What's not working? You need to go back a few months later, you launch anything new, and verify how efficient and effective it is for that team. Because until they really start using it, sometimes you just don't know. And then future use cases, are there new things that might change over time? Are you going to add e-commerce, personalization? Those are things you might be talking about, but not able to roll out right away. But if you're talking about them, you got to think about those as you're building out your platform. So you go, oh, we can integrate it this way or integrate it that way. And you don't have to flush it all out, but just some discussion and some topics around it. And then think about what you can easily set up today to help and add new use cases. So as Joel said, you can phase some of these things. You don't have to do it all now. So what can you do today to set up something easy and help that? And then, is it possible your team might change over time? Your team itself. Do you want to get more technical people? Are they going to learn some technical skills? Is one of your people on the path to becoming a developer, or one of them, wanting to learn more about SEO or other skills that they can bring in that would affect how you build the system out? So you give them the options to modify those things or those fields and content in the future. So you might want to hide them from certain things initially and then open it up over time. And is it possible your workflows or security might change? I think that's kind of related to the last one as well. If your team's changing, your workflows are changing, security changing. I know a lot of people start with the same publisher and editor to begin with, but they want down the road to have a separate person or a gatekeeper. Or they gatekeep up front until that person knows the system, the editor is comfortable enough to be able to publish themselves. And then the last one, the number of entries greatly increases. When that happens over time, that can really change the architecture of your solutions, not just the coding side where it's like, well, this doesn't fit anymore in my customer experience, but also just like having to manage more content. So a lot of people miss this one. And they're like, oh, I have 10 items, it's never going to change. And then when they get to 10,000 items, they're like, this doesn't work anymore. This is not scalable. It's not going to support
Managing
this.
Any list with more than 10,000 items or even more than 1,000 items can be overwhelming.
100%, yeah. So setting up your content architecture. So that's the next step. Get in there, set up your environments, set up staging, UAT, production as soon as you can. You want to be able to get that going so you can test the workflow of moving content through those channels. You want to ensure preview is set up and working right away. A lot of people set up their environment, they do all the development, everything. At the end, they start setting up their production and their preview and things. How are you going to test during development, during the process, if you can't have those stages flushed out? Configure your content models, get in there, get those things set up, optimize the input forms, validation, helper text, custom fields that integrate with other systems. Make it so it's usable right away, because the next step requires it. And then implement integrations that connect directly to your models. So Joel talked about integration with e-commerce with products, or other ways where you're kind of tying IDs and linking content. You need those done now, early, before you build any of your front-end solutions or platforms, and get it to a place where your content editors can add content directly now. And the reason for that is that our viewpoint, and we're going to do some tips and tricks down the road, but like you should have the editors in there populating content and testing the system while your developers are pulling content and building your front-end systems. Bridge that so it's done at the same time, because then your developers or your team can modify and make tweaks and adjustments before you're live. So before you deploy to live, get your team in there using the system, running through their original use cases. Survey them. Make sure that they're find it easy to use, that their overall satisfaction is like, this will work for me. This is awesome. This is really good. Or this is not good. How do we reiterate and adjust? Test populating content with large numbers of entries. People forget to do this all the time. And it's not just for the entry side, it also for the customer experience side. If you flood that front end with a whole bunch of content, the system will allow you to do that. That experience at the end is not going to be good. Ensure workflows and day-to-day activities are efficient. So you have to make sure those workflows work, and it's not getting stuck somewhere in the workflow because the person isn't it isn't set up to be successful in that step of the workflow for whatever reason. And then the last stage is reiterate and deploy. So before you deploy, make the changes, tweak and adjust. You have to do that as you kind of go through. Use the feedback to correct and re-optimize. This is your chance before the system is live. This also works when systems are already live. and you're reiterating and adding new content architecture and evolving your system. But the new changes haven't gone live yet. The new content models haven't gone live yet. You need to do that before they go live, because once they go live, you won't believe how freaked out and scared editors and managers are to make changes or to do things or to complain that it needs to be optimized. Once it's kind of live out there for your customers, people kind of feel, I can't touch it. It's like, it's already been done. We've moved on. So you really want to do this just with the mental like positioning of the mindset of the team. And once areas are complete, set up training sessions and verify again. The training sessions tell you a lot. If people are asking a lot of questions how to do stuff, or if they can't just do it, there's probably an issue there. And when everything is good, complete the front end development and deploy your solution. Deploy everything out. So be happy knowing your system's easy to use, efficient, and highly flexible. That is imagine you roll it all out and you're like, you know what? I know this is easy to use. They've told me. The users have told me. That is a great feeling when you roll something out, because you know the front end is going to be successfully rolled out.